On this week's adventure, I want to take a look at like millions of unusual small creatures lurking everywhere. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about one of those simple but very popular toy lines from the 80s, M.U.S.C.L.E. Now, at first glance, if you haven't seen these before, and if you're watching this show, I'm going to assume you probably have, you might be asking yourself why. But these little guys were awesome. They were affordable, they were unique, and they became something fun to collect. Hey gang, I'm Jason Emmett, and welcome to Rewind Toys. So originally you could buy them one of two ways. They came in a blister pack of 4 men, or my favorite, the plastic garbage can, which held 10. Why a garbage can? I don't know. I have no idea. It just looked cool. It was a clear garbage can. It looked cool. The figures were small, around 2 inches. They were molded. They couldn't be articulated in any way, and they were weird looking. Now, I used to think these guys were inspired by luchador wrestlers and, like the masks that luchadors wore. But that isn't exactly where these bizarre creations found their roots. We're going to take a quick look at the history behind the toy, and then we'll kind of explain how, even though I was wrong, it still made perfect sense. Kinnikuman was a manga introduced in 1979 by writer Takashi Shimada and artist Yoshinori Nakai. Yep, as is often the case, these guys found their beginning in Japan. Now, as I mentioned, I thought the look of these guys might have been inspired by luchadors, but actually they were a parody of action superheroes at the time, like Ultraman, and that also makes sense when you look at them. So over time, and we're going to get there, the story behind these figures became that they were intergalactic professional wrestlers, which is why, you understand the luchador thing now, right? So adding the story would help define the look of Kinnikuman, which translates to, shocker, Muscle Man, and it would create a run better suited for an American audience, especially since wrestling in the 80s was such a massive thing, and we Americans we have to have a story to buy toys. I bought stuff because it looked cool, but everyone else, they have to have a story. We also had something really cool in that each of these strange cosmic wrestlers had their own specialized fighting move. Again, this was all in the manga. Think Mortal Kombat, only more lighthearted and less like head-ripping, offing stuff. So when they were released in America, only 2 of these figures were ever given official names. There was Muscle Man and Buffalo Man, who was later renamed Terry Bull, which is so much better than Buffalo Man, in my opinion. But in the manga, the characters all had names, and those names fit what they looked like. There was Oil Man, who was made up of oil cans, as an example. That one's a little on the nose, but you get it. So the manga was popular, and it actually spawned into a cartoon series in Japan in 1983, and that ran for 3 seasons, and they even had a few movies. With that, we bring on the toys. So Bandai produced these, and they were pumping these little guys out in a style known as keshi, which basically means eraser. And that's pretty much what they looked like. At first, they were all one color, flesh color, and they were small enough to be bought out of vending machines. And in Japan, that's how they were sold, and they were a massive success. With that, we enter Mattel. So around the end of 1985, some say 1986, Mattel was all like, hey, those do really well, and we want to make money and stuff, so we should work together or something. Mattel then acquired the rights to distribution in the United States and Canada. They looked at the anime series, and they did consider bringing that over, but they decided it was just a little too violent for kids who were watching wholesome programming at the time, like WWF. So instead, they opted to release the toys in sets in the United States without any backstory at all. Okay, so maybe we don't need a story. Whatever. It was a gamble, but they were cheap to produce and they had a high collectability factor. Now, what's really cool is originally a 4-pack might have run you like $1, and a can of 10 were like under $5. It was easy for parents to say yes to appease a kid who was complaining as they were like being hauled through Kmart, and the unique design made them appealing enough for kids to actually ask for them. There were also 28 packs, which would go for under $10. The 28 packs, they did actually help to establish a bit of a backstory, and they divided the two warring factions, the Thug Busters, the good guys led by Muscle Man, and the Cosmic Crunchers, the bad guys, which were led by Terry Bull. So let's talk collectability. Collectability. That's right. In the U.S., there were 236 official figures. There was a horrible Nintendo game. There was the awesome championship Battling Belt that you could actually wear and also held figures. The board game that came with 5 exclusive figures, and the awesome hard-knockin' rockin' wrestling ring set that came with 2 exclusive figures. Of these, I own several figures, like a bunch. And I owned the wrestling ring, which let you slam dudes together until one got knocked loose or until you broke the damn clip, whichever came first. So that first shipment of figures was all the pinkish color, mostly described as bubblegum pink or, again, flesh color. The second round was either the flesh color, dark blue, red, or purple. The third shipment came in dark blue, red, purple, magenta, salmon, which was similar to the flesh color, lime green, neon orange, and light blue. They also had a mail-in poster. Now, if you are even considering starting a muscle collection, I would highly recommend trying to get your hands on one of these posters. It's an awesome index for the figures and would help you figure out what you need. It also looks really cool. Now, there were 233 characters on the poster, and there's even a little spot where you could like check mark off once you got one. If I had the poster today, I wouldn't do that if I had a crisp copy of it anyway. Now, you can try to get one of these posters off like eBay or something, assuming you can find one, but they're considered somewhat of a collector's item now too, so you can just print one up offline somewhere, and that one you could like mark off or whatever. That'd be cool. Warning! That might have been overkill. Like, I want you to be aware, but what I'm about to say, but it's not like something really bad or just, Keep in mind the poster does not contain every single figure. If you're doing the Japanese Kenkeshi as well as the U.S. muscle lines, you're going to be missing some. There are some figures more rare than others. Satan Cross has gained a somewhat rare status, for example, as has the Purple Claw. There were a lot of knockoffs as well, probably because this was such an inexpensive line and it was so popular that, of course, you're going to get knockoffs. Don't get me wrong, some of those knockoffs are actually pretty cool, but you might want to know the real stuff from the fake. One way to make sure you're getting the real deal is the feel. Bootlegs typically feel a bit flimsier as they're often made of cheaper material. But the best way is to look at the back. Authentic figures are going to have a stamp into the actual material. That stamp's going to be Y/S*N*T. If you're wanting to know why, I'm going to try to tell you this next part and try not to butcher some of these words. Y is for Yuta Tamago, the manga team that actually, released the muscle manga. S is for Shueisha, the manga publishing company. N is for NTV, the network that broadcasts the TV series. And of course, T is for Toei, the animation company that produced the series. Anyway, there you have it. That is a very quick rundown of the muscle toy phenomenon. Now, for new collectors, these are a really great place to start as they can be obtained fairly cheap. I mean, not as cheap as they were originally, but, still fairly affordable. And they look great. The common figures are about 4 times what they once were, if you consider, because nowadays they're going to run you $1 to $2 a piece for the loose ones, on average. And like I said, you used to be able to get 4 for $1, but still, it's spending $1 or $2 is not that big a deal. Again, some of those more rare ones out there gonna be a little bit more, but you never know. Sometimes you even stumble across those and people sell them cheap because they just don't know. Now, I know we have some muscle collectors out there, so let us know down in the comments. Are you working on a complete set? If so, how close are you? Now, I want to thank all of you for dropping by. Make sure you check out our past videos because, well, some of them are pretty cool. and hit subscribe so you'll see the future videos as well. Also, remember, when it comes to collecting rewind toys, well, the hunt, that's half the fun.